Look at you just planting yourself down here. And that joke is a little insight as to what we're going to be doing today. A few weeks ago, I sent out a tweet. And I really wanted to know what kind of plants were good to start out with if I was wanting to start out with plant care. And I got like a few good suggestions. I got things like cactuses, like spider plants, and all those sound fun, but I really feel that I'm really enticed by the plant when I see it. And I feel like I'll learn to love the plant. Do you know what I mean? And I want to give myself a challenge, and I want to find a new hobby because I've been super into looking at plants and plant videos, and I've always really liked David Attenborough's sort of documentaries, so it would be really cool if I could get some plants of myself to look after. And one of the things that I did on stream, not yesterday, was make this little guy, which is a really cool plant made out of Lego. And this type of beautiful plant is called a chrysanthemum, which is a type of motif plant that's usually done in like traditional art, and it's based on like the classic quartet of like seasonal plants. So this one represents autumn because it's very nice and orange and vibrant. And we're coming up to springtime, and I really just want to get something that really captures my essence and really stands out as a centerpiece, a focal point, if you will. And in my head, I wanted to get like 4 or 5 different plants so I could look after a lot of different ones, but we'll see what I end up getting. My plan is to go to a local garden center and then get a few plants that they have there. I don't know if I'm going to get pots for them, like specific pots yet, because we might have a couple in the house already, so I'm going to have a look out for them and see if I can get anything for quite cheap. And obviously, I do apologize if you are here for sort of, you know, cooking and fun crafts and silliness, but like sometimes I just want to have a bit of a day where I just do sort of life stuff and just, you know, have a good time. If you're more into the cooking and the crafting and all that jazz, then, you know, you can click away and I will see you next week. But for all my friends that love sort of plant care and just, you know, getting a little update on what I'm doing in my life, then feel free to stick around because this is what I'm going to be doing today and I'm very, very excited about it. So my plan right now is just to go to the local garden center. I don't think I'm going to film while I'm there because I don't think that's really like appropriate, but I will film when I get back and show you what kind of plants that I have gotten. I have arrived at the garden center. So exciting. I know, riveting content. Sometimes I just kind of like doing this kind of content though, just because I feel like I like sharing things about like just what I'm doing in my life. And like, I mean, what's more exciting than plants? I mean, let's be honest here. I am gonna head in and go and meet my new babies. Sounds so weird, but that is what I'm doing. I am meeting my new children in plant form. Otherwise it'd be a bit weird. So I have just gotten back from the garden center with not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 beautiful new plants, which I am so delighted with. The first thing that I should say is that I have checked for like all of these plants, basically every plant ever, and everything is telling me that it is toxic to cats in some way. And obviously that is a slight problem because there is a cat in this household, so what we've done is we've made sure that all the plants are in places that Elle will not interact with generally. The other thing is that we have had a number of plants before and like flowers and things, and Elle is not interested like in the slightest in like any of these plants anyway. But if there is like a circumstance where we notice that a plant is sort of drooping a bunch of leaves or dropping a bunch of leaves on the floor, we're going to make sure that we mop those all up as soon as possible. And again, they're all in places where if their leaves do fall, then they're not going to drop in places that Elle is going to go to. So we've really thought it out and made sure that it was all carefully placed and make sure that it's as safe as possible as it can be for her. But now it's time for you to meet all of my new children who are yet to be named. So if you do have any good suggestions for names for any of these plants, then please let me know what you think in the comments below. So the first little guy that I'd like to introduce you all to is this little guy. So this is a Spathiphyllum, which is like this really good sort of low maintenance, low light plant that you don't need to worry too much about, that produces these sort of beautiful green leaves and has like elegant sort of white blossoms that will eventually come out as well. It's also a really good sort of air purifier. It's known to filter like toxins, which sort of make your house or office sort of a much more healthier sort of breathing space. So my thinking was to sort of put it just sort of by the desk here, which I like having. Like, it's again a place that Elle does not interact with like in the slightest, and it also just lets me have like a nice sort of green little space that's sort of right next to my desk, which I really like having. Generally, apparently they like moist but not soggy soil, so that was always sort of my problem in the past, is that I would like overwater my plants and they would eventually die because of that and drop like loads of dead leaves and things, which made the environment for the plant to grow in that much worse. So I'm going to really make sure I'm careful with that, not to overwater the plant, but make sure it's in sort of a moist environment. And again, they're really good for sort of indirect light and low light levels, which is sort of where this will sit by my desk, because I don't often get a lot of light in by the desk, and usually if there is sunlight coming through, then I'll lower the blinds, because otherwise I can't see my computer screen. So it's in like a really perfect place for this plant to really thrive in, which I'm sort of really happy about. The one important note is that this is like can be quite toxic to cats and dogs and animals and things, so it's in a place that is out of reach for Elle to get to, so it's all taken care of. I'll make sure to look after it and make sure that Elle is safe, because that's obviously the most important thing. So I'm happy with the choice, plus I love the big green leaves as well. It's a nice sort of contrast to the rest of my desk as well, so I like it. So the next one is this one. It's a Kalanchoe magic bells, and I believe the magic bells refer to like these like lighter green, grapey looking flowers that come off of the plant, and it's a really sort of unique succulent that has a really cool name. I like the name Magic Bells, it's quite cool. But like it has these sort of big glossy green leaves that I really like, and it has these sort of big sort of cascading look, which I really like about the plant, and it's just sort of really unique into how it flowers. Generally thrives in sort of bright indirect sunlight, which is where it's gonna be placed. So in a place where in the morning it's gonna get a lot of sunlight, and then sort of in the afternoon it will get sort of indirect light. But it also likes a warm sort of spot, so I've made sure to put it in a place that's gonna be sort of really warm for it to sort of thrive best it can. It's a good plant to have if you have like a little sunspot, because it really sort of likes having a good bit of sun. So a place with, you know, filtered light is a really sort of perfect place to have this plant. You also need to just water it very sparingly, so like you really want to make sure like the water's sort of, again, slightly moist, but just generally only when the soil is completely dry, that's when you want to water it, because again, you don't want to overwater it, as I have done in the past. So again, it's a plant I'm going to take really good care of and make sure that it's not too overwatered, and again, a plant that I don't need to worry too much about in terms of maintenance and looking after it. But again, it's in a place where if the bells do fall off, they're not going to be on the floor or anywhere that I will be interested in. So again, taking good care of everyone involved. So next up, I have this little guy, and it is a Quate Kalanchoe Aurora, which is sort of very similar to sort of the one I showed before, but I just sort of really liked it because it's just a little guy. Look at it. It's got all these like really beautiful small leaves throughout, and apparently it's got like loads of different colored leaves that are going to eventually come out, but for now it's just a sort of a small sort of fern-ish like plant, which I really like, and it's just sort of very different and unique to sort of the big sort of waxy leaves that a lot of the other plants have. Again, it's a plant that requires very minimal watering. You only want to water this guy when it's very dry soil, but apart from that, again, very small amounts of water, because otherwise the leaves will fall off like that. And I had a fern once, and this reminds me of that fern because I remember those leaves would fall off like crazy. So again, this is one that you really want to just be minimal effort with. Just make sure that if there are any leaves that do eventually die, you want to just use a very clean pair of scissors or a blade so that you can just cut those bits off to avoid infecting the rest of the plant. And again, checking in the soil if there are any of those leaves that fall off, because otherwise that will cause problems to the healthy development of the plant as well. But I just really like it because it also has like a really cool pot as well. Like I love like the dimples on the pot and the sort of grayish green plant. It like fits in really well with where it's going to be placed. So yeah, I really like this one. Apparently it thrives in sort of indirect sunlight, so again, it's in a spot where it's going to get some good amounts of sunlight throughout the day, but not too much as to overdo it. But yeah, I really like this guy, and again, I need a name for it, so if you do have any suggestions for this little guy, then please do let me know. So my second to last plant is this guy, which is a anthurium Clarinervium, which is apparently a really like good statement plant to have, and I really sort of like its big sort of bold, waxy leaves with like the white veiny bits like running along through it. And it really stood out to me because it doesn't have like loads of different leaves, but I just sort of really like the texture of the leaves and the way they're presented. And I just like how it like kind of looks like a heart as well. It's kind of cool. I really enjoy that. But it just has those really cool sort of white veins that sort of go throughout it, which makes it look really easy to tell if the plant is healthy, which I quite like. And apparently it also, again, enjoys some very sort of moist soil, but not soggy. So you need to make sure it's well drained and just take the plant out of the pot every now and again just to check that the soil isn't sort of waterlogged. Apparently it's also a very sort of tropical plant, so you need to make sure it's in quite a humid place. So I've made sure to put it by a window that gets a lot of sunlight and in an area of the house that is generally quite hot. And apparently with sort of the right care, it can really grow sort of really large and lush. So I'm sort of really excited to see how big this thing is going to get, because at the minute it's very much baby, but it's got like these really big leaves on it. So I'm excited to see how much bigger and more elegant they're going to be. And I just think it's a really cool sort of unique plant, and I'm really excited to see how it develops. And another sort of really cool sort of unique thing about this plant is it gets sort of aerial roots as well. So like, again, like if you look kind of really close into there, you get some roots that go sort of outside of the plants, which is quite cool. Apparently these help the plants absorb moisture and also nutrients in the air, so it's also something that's really important that you don't cut them off. But a good plant, and I really like the pot as well. It's got like this really cool sort of diamond texture bit around. I like sort of the lighter green that contrasts the darker green. I think it looks really, really cool, so really happy with this one. And then last but not least, we have this guy, which is apparently called a Dracaena or Dracaena compacta. And it's sort of a really sleek and stylish plant that's really good for its like big, dark, waxy green leaves. And it really just sort of stood out to me because it's got like this big sort of elevated stalk, kind of like all of the other plants. But it's quite similar to the very first plant in that it's got these really big sort of waxy leaves, and I really, really like those. Apparently this is best in like low to moderate light as well. So it's downstairs in the bathroom, but in like a really big elevated place where Elle does not get access to, because again, apparently it can be toxic to pets. And again, it enjoys like a good bit of humidity as well, so the bathroom is like a really good place to it where it's going to get sort of a more humid sort of space to sort of thrive in. And again, with watering, less is more for this guy. You want to make sure the plant is not too overwatered, but only sort of mildly damp, but not soggy, because otherwise it's gonna struggle a little bit. And I also think that with its sort of bold, upright structure, it's really good to put in sort of a modern sort of place in the house. So like the bathroom's just been redone in like this really nice sort of stylish like way by Scott, and Scott asked to put this one sort of in that space. So I think it's a really good sort of match for where it's going to be, and it really sort of works out well. And again, it stays really sort of small and tidy, and it's a really good sort of statement piece in sort of a minimalist setup. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. I think it looks really cool, and I'm excited to see how big it gets, because apparently it's going to get a lot bigger. So with care and time, it'll be really exciting to see how this goes. And that is basically my new hobby. Again, I didn't really feel like doing too much, but I really felt like getting into a new hobby this weekend. And as you guys will know from my Twitter as well, I asked to try and get some suggestions. So I'm really happy with the sort of plants that I've got. They're very sort of low maintenance, and I don't have to worry too much about them. And they also just make the space a little bit more greener, which is what I wanted to do. Again, I really appreciate you watching this video, because I get that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I just sort of really enjoy sharing my hobbies and things that are interesting me at the minute. So I really want to get into more plant care, and my thinking is that maybe this time next year I'll give sort of an update to see how all the plants are doing, what additional plants I'll bring in, and I'm sort of really excited to get into that as well. And as I've mentioned, if you do have any suggestions for names or anything, then please let me know in the comments below. And also, if you do have any good sort of starter beginner plants that you think would be good for me to look after, I know that cactus has been mentioned a lot of times, then please give me some suggestions that I can work with, because I'm really excited and looking forward to getting into sort of plant care. I've got some really good sort of tools as well to help me look after the plants, things like feed and appropriate scissors and things to cut the plants with. But again, get that this isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I really appreciate you watching the video. And if you do want to see more stuff involving me and my life and hobbies and silly little videos that I like making on the internet, then please feel free to drop a like and do subscribe if you would like to. But again, thank you very much for watching. I will have a new video out next week on Sunday. I also stream on Twitch in the evening times, so all of those links and things will be in the description below if you do fancy following me on those. But until next week, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sundays and good start to your weeks, or whenever you're watching this video anyway. But thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.